Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MoneyMax account presentation. My name is Dr. Joan Haakonstad. I'm a field partner with United Financial Freedom, and I'm extremely excited to be chatting with you about one of my favorite topics, debt. I know, how many people can actually say that? Your favorite topic, debt? Well, I have to tell you, it didn't used to be one of my favorite topics. In fact, I loathed the topic. I hated, I despised even the concept of that four-letter word, debt. But I tell you, this system that you guys are about to hear about tonight was completely life-changing for me and completely changed the way I look at debt. I have a much stronger appreciation for it. But first I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in our country right now. In fact, about several years ago, the Social Security Administration did a study following 100 people over 40 years of work. And I have to say the results were a little bit sobering. At the end of 40 years of work, of those 100 people, 54 people were broke. They were dependent on Social Security, relatives, friends, charity to make ends meet. Also, what they discovered is for every 100 people after 40 years of work, 36 will unfortunately be dead. They died before even completing the 40 years of work. They didn't even get to enjoy the fruit of their labor. Now, 5 need to continue to work to make ends meet. 4 will be financially secure. 1, only 1 out of 100 are going to be wealthy. So what does that tell us? Well, unfortunately, the sobering reality is for every 100 people after 40 years of working, only 5% will be financially successful. 95% of people will end up dead or dead broke. Now, this is not why I like the conversation of debt. This is what my reality was growing up. My parents did not have a significant amount of money. They had a lot of debt, and it was very sobering. By the time my dad reached the time where he could retire, he unfortunately passed away, and that is a sobering reality for a lot of people. And the other part of the reality is that we've come to the American way of life that we have little to no financial education in school. There's none. Yet finances are the foundation of every household, and we have no education on it. I remember back in high school being taught how to write a check, but certainly not how to have money in the account to cover that check. I remember coming home and yelling to my mom, "Hey, guess what? Guess what? I just learned how to write a check. Can I borrow your checkbook?" She's like, no, you may not borrow my checkbook. And in fact, let's have a little conversation, because if you write a check, you sure as heck better have money to cover that check that you just wrote. It's sad that we have little to no education about finances in school. And again, it is the foundation for every household. No wonder finances are the #1 cause of divorce. Finances are the #1 cause of stress, which leads to a number of different physiological changes and disorders in our body. Did you know that finances can actually hurt us? What a scary, scary thought. The other part of it is debt is at an all-time high. Our national debt is over $28 trillion. Our consumer debt is over $14 trillion. Consumer debt consists of mortgages, credit cards, student loans, auto loans, that type of thing. Over $14 trillion. What a sad, sobering reality. Because the American way of life has turned into a society in which we buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't know. And it all results in debt. Now, you're probably wondering why this is one of my favorite topics. Because of that sobering discussion that we just have, I have to say that's why I loathe the topic. But the reality is that there's solutions. And tonight you're here to learn about the solutions. And the reality is, if you're watching this webinar, you're like most people and you probably want to get out of debt. You're not alone. The vast majority of Americans are drowning in debt, and yet they don't do anything about it because they don't know where to start. You're doing something about it, so congratulations. Debt is a big business. And the less we know about how to manage debt, the more profit big institutions make off of us. Although debt does help us pay for things that we otherwise can't afford, debt also costs us our future if we don't understand the difference between good debt and bad debt, or if we don't know how to pay off that debt. I don't know if it seems like it for you, but for me in the past, it always seems like no matter what I did, I couldn't make any real progress on my debt. Well, I hate to tell you, it's because it was set up that way. If you've ever felt that way, it's set up that way on purpose. Even marketing is adjusted to accommodate us being in debt. They no longer advertise how much something actually costs. Instead, they talk about what the minimum payment is and what you can afford. They've changed that language so that you can think, oh, well, I can afford that per month, no problem. Then, of course, they're anticipating that you'll only make the minimum monthly payments, and then they will make even more money off of you. We're little dollar signs running around. Never a fun thing. So when I felt overwhelmed with debt, I can tell you, I went out and I did a lot of research. And what I found is that the traditional banking model was to say, hey, go ahead and consolidate your debt and get a lower monthly payment. Or you refinance that debt to get a lower interest rate. Now, in concept, that should work. In theory, that should work. But in application, does that really help you pay off debt? Or does that actually just start the clock all over again? And when you refinance to that lower interest rate, the mindset is that you'll actually make a larger payment because now your payment is lower. You should make the original payment. But most of us don't do that because, again, we're not conditioned that way. Now, some of us, and I tried this, we do the biweekly payment plan. And quite frankly, that's helpful. Out of these 3 items on your screen, that's actually the only one that will help you pay off your debt quicker. And if you don't know what a biweekly payment plan is, it's where you have one payment for your mortgage, you cut that in half, and you send half that mortgage payment every 2 weeks. So every year you end up paying one extra mortgage payment. Well, of course, if you're sending extra money, it will get paid down quicker. Now, the challenge is that most people believe that with a biweekly payment, you will actually pay off that mortgage in half the time. And unfortunately, mathematically, that does not work. Mathematically, on average, a biweekly payment plan will actually only reduce that mortgage down by about 4 to 8 years. The average time frame is 6. So that 30-year mortgage is paid off in 24 years. Now, again, you're ahead of the schedule. Fantastic. Do it. If that's working for you, fantastic. Now, the other thing, when I felt overwhelmed in debt, was I looked at all the financial gurus. And quite frankly, I followed some of their advice. One of them says, hey, reduce your standard of living. Go eat those ramen noodles. Don't enjoy life. Never go out. Save every extra penny that you have. Put it into a jar. Put it in an envelope. Send the extra money to your debt. That's great, but I tell you, I hated living life. I busted my tushy working all the time, and I felt like I didn't get to enjoy it. I didn't get to reap the benefits of what I did. I have advanced degrees. I was working my tush off, and I didn't get to enjoy a single penny of it. I paid off some debt, but geez, I didn't get to enjoy life along the way. Now, we also have financial gurus that say, hey, when you do have that extra money, go ahead and send those extra payments to debt. The challenge is that the financial gurus actually disagree on how to pay down that debt. One of them says, hey, take that extra payment and target the debt with the highest interest rate. The other financial guru says, no, that's just plain silly. Don't go after the debt with the highest interest rate. Go after the debt with the lowest balance. They can't even agree on which debt to tackle first. They do both say, of course, once you get that paid off, roll it over to the next debt with the lowest balance or the highest interest rate. And again, these are strategies that will work and they will help you pay down debt quicker. There's no magic about paying down debt. You have to send extra money. The difference, though, is that this is a one-size-fits-all approach to paying down debt. And I don't know about you, but I know that my finances are different than what they were years ago. My finances are different than my mother-in-law's. My finances are different than my best friend's. Yours and my finances are likely different. So if we have different finances, why and how should we approach them in the same manner? The reality is debt has different variables associated with it, and there's one mathematical solution to pay down that debt. And I'm so excited to say this is why I now love debt, because of the MoneyMax account system. The one mathematical equation to find the fastest way down to pay down debt given your unique financial situation is here within the MoneyMax account system. It's not a refinancing. We don't change your standard of living. In fact, we kind of pride ourselves on saying you don't have to change a single thing that you're currently doing. As long as you can break even on your debts, meaning that you have, you're at least have breaking even money coming in versus money going out, our system will likely work for you. Not definitely, but likely. It's not a biweekly program. It's not a debt roll down, and it's certainly not a concept nor a theory. What it is a web-based financial GPS. I don't know if you've ever used a GPS to get where you want to go. I certainly use one all the time. So, when you do use one, you input an address where you want to go, and it gives you turn-by-turn directions on how to get there. You miss a turn, you hit road construction, no problem. It recalculates to find the next fastest way to reach your destination. Imagine that type of technology, but for your finances. That's what our system is. It's going to look at your money coming in, your money going out. It looks at the variables associated with your debts and timings of your cash flow, and it mathematically finds that one fastest way for you to pay off your debts, given your unique situation. Miss your turn, or you have additional expenses coming out, or additional monies coming in, no problem. The system will recalculate to find the next fastest way to reach your destination. It's an individual plan for your situation and adjust as your life adjusts for your current and your future debt. And like I said, it's not a concept or a theory. We actually have a proven 15-year history with over $2 billion in principal paid down. The reality is it's not magic. It's just math. So let's look a little bit at the math. We're going to first talk about an amortization schedule. Now, you may have seen one before, you may not, I'm not sure. So we're going to kind of start with the basics. Let's say that we have a mortgage, $300,000, and the stated interest rate is 4%. So over a 30-year term, the monthly payment is $1,432.25. Now, for the sake of ease, I'm actually going to drop off the 25 cents, or at least I'm not going to mention it each time. I know it's there. I'm just not going to say $14.32 and 25 cents each time. I'm just going to say $14.32. So what a lot of people don't realize is what that amortization schedule actually looks like. Remember, we have a 4% stated interest rate. Well, at the end of year one, you have made a total payment of $17,187. But guess what? Let me rephrase that. $11,903 of that $17,000 payment went to interest. That didn't even touch your principal. So 69.26% of your payments went to interest. That is pure profit to the bank. But don't worry, it gets better. Year 5, it's reduced down to 63.94. Whoop. Year 10, you're at 55.97. Year 15, 46.24% of your payment still goes to interest. Didn't we say that this was a 4% interest rate? Wow, that's why we say it's stated and not actual. Now, the good news, we have a better way. Again, I love talking about debt because I've discovered the better way. I use the better way, and it's changed my life. Now, let's look at this a little bit closer. So, month number 1, again, we still have that $14.32 and 25 cent payment. So, month number 1, a whole whopping $432 goes to principal, and $1,000 of that monthly payment goes to interest. 70%, in fact, of our payment went to interest. But don't worry, month number 2, we've increased the amount that goes to principal by $2. We are on a roll. Woo woo. End of year 1, we've paid in $17,187. Again, only $5,283 of it went to principal. Year 5, we have paid $85,935 of monthly payments for 5 years, 60 payments, and only $28,658 went to principal. The rest all went to interest. That was $57,000 in interest that was just handed over to the bank. And guess what most people do at year 5 to year 7? They refinance. They start this thing all over again. They start this cycle all over again. And they start, once again, having back to that 70% of their payment going to interest. Now, of course, that's different. It depends on what your interest rate is. It's going to have a different percentage that goes to interest. But geez, at 4%, you'd expect a little bit more going to principal, right? Year 10, $171,000 paid. Only $63,000 is gone to principal. Guess what? Most people think that year 15 is the halfway mark of their mortgage. I hate to tell you, in this situation, $300,000 balance with 4% interest over a 30-year term, year 19 and 3 months is when you finally get to a position where you have paid down half of the principal, meaning you've paid in $330,000, but your principal that you now have paid down is at the halfway mark. You're now at $150,000. Wow. In totality, you have now paid, you've had a $300,000 mortgage, you've now paid $515,000. Once again, interest rate was at 4%. That was as stated. The actual amount of interest was 72%. Absolutely crazy. So how do you get ahead of this? Well, once again, there's no magic to paying down debt. You have to send extra money. The key is to make sure you're sending the right amount to the right debt at the right time to make it pay off in the fastest time frame possible. So once again, we're going to look a little bit closer at an amortization schedule. So this is the first 6 months of an amortization schedule. Still that $300,000 mortgage at 4% over 30 years. Once again, you can see the split up of interest versus principal. Now, what if this is a brand new mortgage? What if you took all of this amount of principal, we added it up for the first 6 months, and we sent a check to the mortgage company for $2,615, and we paid that principal down? When you do that, that actually cancels out the interest. You are no longer obligated to make those payments on the interest. That one-time investment of $2,615 just saved you $5,979 in interest. That's a pretty darn good return on investment, right? I mean, that's over 100% return on investment, in fact. And it's guaranteed. You pay down that principal fast, you no longer have to pay on that interest. The challenge is most people don't have the financial capability of paying that $2,615. Well, we're not going to just pull it out of thin air. Don't worry. We actually have strategies that will help you find the money. It's about implementing different banking systems and strategies into your finances so you can pay it down quicker. Again, it's not magic. It's just math. Our program is designed to ensure banking strategies, or is designed to combine banking strategies with advanced math and innovative technology in order to ensure that every single dollar you have either earns interest or cancels interest. We want to take advantage of every single penny, nickel, dime, quarter, dollar. If you think about it, if a bank didn't take advantage of every single penny, nickel, dime, quarter, dollar, they would lose millions, if not billions. Yet we as the consumers are not taught the same strategies. We are actually taught the complete opposite. Just have it sit around, don't do anything for you. So our money doesn't work for us. It's time to reverse the rules of banking into our favor so that we can accelerate the pay down of debt and keep as much of our hard-earned money in our pockets as possible. Now, in order to use our system, there are 4 requirements. You need to have debt. Well, I would assume that if you're on the call, well, you know what they say when you assume, but I would assume, being that you're on the call, that you likely have debt. In fact, 95% of Americans have debt. You also need a checking account, you need a savings account, and you need our system. We do have an optional approach, and that's using an advanced line of credit, such as a home equity line of credit, a personal line of credit, or a business line of credit. This is optional. You do not need to have it, but it also does give you access to additional cash and capital should you need it in the future. Not a bad thing. But all you truly need is debt, checking and savings, and the system. So the system, as I've mentioned several times, is actually based on a number of different money saving strategies. It's about implementing banking systems and strategies into our finances. So today we're going to talk about 4 of them: interest accumulation, interest float, interest cancellation, and strategic debt payoff. Now, everybody's situation is different. Pure and simply, my situation is different than yours. Your situation is different than the other person on the call. That's different than the other person on the call. Everybody's situation on this call is completely different. And these strategies will be used in different ways for different people because it's all based on math. That said, let's look at one possible scenario. So we have John and Rebecca Jones. They have $5,000 of income. Their expenses are $4,800. So they have on average $200 left over at the end of the month. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. Now we're going to keep it simple to start off. But let's say that we have one mortgage. We're going to use a different interest rate now. We're going to use a different mortgage. $200,000 balance, 6% interest, makes the payment $1,199.10 every single month for 30 years. That's 360 payments. Now we're also going to practice what's called credit card float. So I'm going to give a little bit of a spoiler alert, but let me ask you, if you start with a 0 balance on a credit card, you put your monthly expenses on it, and then you pay it off in full before the due date, how much interest do you pay? 0. So keep that in mind as we move forward with this. So month number 1, we have that $200,000 mortgage, and we have our $5,000 worth of income coming into our checking. Now remember, our system is looking at money coming in and money going out, and it's telling us the best use of our money. So in this situation, the system says, you know what, $5,000 sitting in our checking is not a good use of money. Let's go ahead and move it over to our savings account where we can accrue interest. Even if it's only at 2%, we're still going to make our money work more effectively for us. Remember, we're taking advantage of all the pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars. Now, in the meantime, we're going to put all of our expenses. Now, we're going to say this in theory, but in reality, you cannot put every single penny of expenses onto a credit card. But for this example, we're going to say that you can. So let's say you were able to put every single bit of your expenses onto a credit card to practice that credit card float. So you put your bills, you put your mortgage payment, you put your car payment, you did everything, all your groceries, everything went onto that credit card. So all $4,800 of expenses are on that credit card. Now, once again, that included your mortgage payment. So when you make that $1,199.10 payment, that reduces the balance down by a whole whopping $199. Yay! Hey, it's getting reduced. It's okay. And your money has sat in your savings account earning money at 2%. That's the interest accumulation. So you've earned $8. Again, it's not a huge amount. Probably can't even buy a McDonald's Happy Meal, but we're taking advantage of all the pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars, because they add up. So interest accumulation. And once again, month number 2 comes around, your paycheck comes in. $5,000 comes into the checking account. Now, I had asked before, if you start with a 0 balance on a credit card, you put in a balance on it, you pay it off in full, how much interest did you pay? 0, right? So the system says, let's go ahead and pay off that credit card in full before the due date. So once again, you've borrowed money at 0% interest, and you've allowed your money to sit in your savings account accruing interest. That, my friends, is called arbitrage. You're borrowing money at one interest rate, you're earning money at a different interest rate. Arbitrage. Now, the system also says, you know what, it's also time to start canceling out some money, that interest on the mortgage. So it advises you to move money from savings to your checking in the amount of $3,989 or $3,789. And now it says, you know what, Let's go ahead and cancel out some interest. Go ahead and move that money from your checking and apply it against your mortgage. Well, that $3,989 just canceled out $18,746 in interest, and it eliminated 16 payments. Now, you're probably wondering, well, that's great, but how do I live? Oh, my goodness, I still want to eat and live my life. Well, you need to. You should eat. You should eat, live your life. Remember, you're going to continue to practice float using that credit card. That doesn't change. And then once again, this cycle continues. Checking pays off that credit card in full. You start building up the reserves and the savings. Once it hits a critical mass, it says go ahead and move that money against a specific debt. In this situation, using the system, and this was actually a real couple, before the system, they had a loan balance of $199,000, after $195,000. The results, they reduced that balance by $3,989. Instead of 358 months remaining, they reduced it down to 342. They eliminated 16 payments. Instead of paying $231,000 in interest, they reduced it down to $212,000. They wiped out $18,746 of interest with one funds transfer. And remember, we just started using the system. Now, in this situation, I mentioned this was a real couple. It was. So conventionally, this is a side-by-side comparison of what they were doing versus what the system could do for them. Starting balance, $200,000 on both. Balance at the end of year one, $197,000 conventionally, $184,000 on our system. It would take 5.5 years of regular payments to get it down to the same point with a conventional loan. Repayment time, 30 years versus 10.4. Interest paid, $231,000 versus $70,000 with our system. In this example, this couple saved $167,219 in interest. Now, once again, everybody's situation is different. This may not necessarily be your outcome. You may have a better outcome. You may have a little bit more time and a little bit less savings. Either way, our system is going to find the fastest way for you to pay off your loans given your financial situation. And that brings us to the fourth strategy. Which debt to pay off first? Strategic debt payoff. If you have a mortgage at $200,000 at 6%, you have a student loan at 7%, you have a auto loan at 7.25, furniture at 7.125, and a credit card at 6.5. How do you know which debt to target when with how much? There are so many potential payoffs, and we haven't even begun to discuss how much of your payment goes to interest, how much of the payment actually applies to principal. All of those factors are influential in determining which debt to target when with how much. How do you know? Because the wrong decision will cost you time and money. And the reality is the average debtor has 13 active creditors on their credit report, which means on a monthly basis, they have over 6 billion potential combinations to pay off debt. What is the likelihood that you will choose the right debt with the right amount 6 billion times? Fairly unlikely. You may just be a mathematician, and if so, congratulations. But the likelihood of doing this 6 billion times every month is just an incredible feat. It's a challenge. So it's no surprise that a powerful program like this has been featured in a variety of nationally distributed magazines and on radio shows. But probably the best national recognition we could possibly have gotten is from Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young came knocking on our door back in 2008, and they started to do some intensive due diligence. In fact, if you don't know who Ernst & Young is, they're responsible for auditing publicly traded companies and doing what's right for consumers. In fact, they're in charge of consumer oversight protection. So when they came to our doors, they wanted to investigate and ensure that our company is doing everything that we say we're doing. So they went through our financials, they sat down with their executive team, they had their financial planners and accountants scour through our program. And after their extensive due diligence, not only did they find that we're a debt-free company because we practice what we preach, Our executive team is great. Our customer service is, quite frankly, exceptional. They also found that we are, in fact, doing what we say we're doing. We are helping people pay off their loans in as little as 1/3 to 1/2 the scheduled time. In fact, they were so impressed with us, they awarded us the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award, Financial Services 2008 Utah region. And this is a similar award that has been given to so many other different companies, names that you may recognize, such as Apple, Starbucks, eBay, Microsoft, and many other companies that are nationally recognized. Very proud of that award. Now, I mentioned before, this is essentially a financial GPS. And just like a GPS that maps out how you get where you want to go, the MMA takes every single aspect of your financial situation into account as it determines the best route for you. So it's going to look at how much you owe, for how long, your interest rates, the types, the incomes, how much, how often, commission-based, how many, what's coming down the road, vacations, holidays, tax returns, so on and so forth. The unexpected events that happen, such as medical bills, broken appliances, home repairs, extra money coming in. It takes all of these things into consideration, and it maps out the fastest way for you to pay off your loans given your unique situation. It is your financial GPS. It guides you to make all the turns. The MMA will guide you to pay off all of your debts. Just like your GPS takes away all the stress of deciding which route to take when an obstacle comes up, MMA takes away the stress when complicated financial decisions come up. GPS helps you stay focused on the road. Our system will help you stay focused on your financial plan. The GPS tracks your success as you follow the route. The MMA tracks your success as you follow the program. The GPS gives you the exact time you're going to arrive at your destination. Our analysis will give you the month and year you'll be debt-free. Our system gives you the date you will be debt-free. And it updates in as little as 20 minutes per month. Well, I have to tell you, the results speak for themselves. To date, we've actually helped pay off, accelerate the pay down of over $2.1 billion in principal for our clients. We're very proud of that. It's also a fact to remember that achieving your financial goals begins with debt elimination. In fact, for the average person, 39 cents of every dollar earned goes to paying interest on debt, not even touching the principal. 39 cents for every dollar. Can you imagine having a 39% raise with no additional work? You don't have to work any harder. You don't have to work longer hours. You just need to get rid of your debt. And the average person would have a 39% raise. I bet you're wondering, is this going to work for me? And the reality is, unfortunately, I don't know. Your next step is to ask the person that invited you to this meeting for a free savings analysis. So ask that United Financial Freedom agent that invited you today. If you were invited by email or by Facebook, go back to the person that invited you and ask them to run a free side-by-side comparison of what you're currently doing versus what our system can do for you. That way, you can make an educated decision about whether or not our system is right for you. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sure you can now see why I enjoy talking about debt. We don't have to be in debt. We have choices. There are solutions. And you guys were here to learn about that solution tonight. Thank you again for joining us. Remember, get out there, take action, get back to the person that invited you to this meeting. Have an amazing evening. Take care.